What is going on, guys? It's Andrew here with a new episode of the TBSG podcast.
What's up? I'm Gabe.
Jose.
And I'm Mo.
So this week, unfortunately, we don't have Obama, but I did go to an event over Martin Luther King weekend at the Seattle Art Museum that we thought tied into shadow boxing by Joseph Rios really well, and we'll get into that. So, at the Seattle Art Museum, they had an event titled The American Dream, in which they had several speakers, all of them represented a different sort of minority group, especially within the Seattle community. Mm-hmm. But it was really, the whole theme of the night was questioning what is the American dream and is it the same for everybody? And clearly it's not. With the background of, with the Mexican background of Joseph Rios and his writing in shadowboxing, I thought it really connected with some of the speakers at the event. There was about 10 or more speakers that were at the event, but I'll just talk about a few. One of them was Montserrat Padilla, and she is a undocumented Mexican transgender who immigrated to the U.S. And lived in California around LA. And a lot of what she talked about was to abolish ICE, devastating effects that ICE has had on many families that have immigrated to the U.S., and its ineffective uses. And another speaker that I thought could relate to Joseph was Arielo Valdez, who was another immigrant from Mexico to the U.S. He was a first-generation student, and he's a hip-hop artist and poet, which really hits home to Joseph Rios, especially with the slang and the education that Joseph refers to within his book. And you could see that a lot in Valdez's presentation. He was true to his roots and his personality and his passion, but he was also clearly educated, and he meshed that together in a way that normally wouldn't be accepted by a lot of elite education folk, I guess. I don't know how to say that.
Yeah.
And
did you feel that like their message was transmitted through their poems, or without knowing their background, was it just kind of like poetry, or how do you feel about that?
The problem was with so many speakers, their time was cut very short. So I felt like that we wished they had more time to actually share more of their own works. Mm-hmm. It felt more like a presentation and a story of their own personal life, which you can see a lot of commonalities between each other, having that shared experience of immigrating to the U.S. and having to deal with being an outsider in a country that is not very considerate of their differences.
In relation to what Gabriel had to say, undocumented immigrants are often abused as domestic workers, as farm laborers, or as sex workers. In the book, Joseph Rios talked about immigrant farm laborers who usually cross the border illegally and are forced to work in unsafe environments.
An airplane drops a white cloud upon brown bodies. Powder sifts gently onto eyebrows, wrists, and shoelaces. Mother instructs small children to hide under vines. The good ones die before 40. The rest of us wake up with swollen feet and nosebleeds.
In this quote, Rios is describing the hazardous conditions immigrants are often exposed to. The white cloud is actually insecticide sprayed over the workers in the fields. This ties back to Gabe's idea of the American dream and how it only applies to certain groups and how it disregards others. In the quote, the immigrants sprayed with the insecticide have nosebleeds and swollen feet. These people develop different types of cancer, and there are no laws or regulations set in place to prevent this.
So that concludes episode 2 of the TBSG podcast. Thank you guys for listening. I think it really shows through the Joseph Rios text and then the event that Gabe went to and the poets that he interacted with, that how important culture is in poetry, and it just adds another layer onto the poetry itself and really makes it, in my opinion, more interesting. Unfortunately, we didn't get Obama today, but next week I actually contacted William Shakespeare's younger son, Willie Shakespeare, so he's going to be on the show. We'll see you next week, guys.
See ya.
Adios.